everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, where we review things in the world of television. Today, we are reviewing the second season of The Rookie. This is the definitive edition, meaning we're doing all spoilers. About 3 years ago, roughly speaking, I think it was 3 years ago, I reviewed the entirety of Season 2, episode by episode, over here on youtube.com/ActionX. And we had done a spoiler-free review for people who have yet to see it when it was available on Hulu at the time. Now it's been a few years. It's been enough time has passed. We're about to begin Season 6 next week, which is, first of all, two things. Number one, that we have to wait so long for Season 6 in general. Two, for the fact that a younger me, which wasn't that much younger ago, I think it was in my 20s by then, when I started reviewing shows in general, the fact I was wrapping up Season 2, and if I remember correctly, they were not renewed for Season 3 by the time I did that video. When I did the Season 2 review back then, there was no Season 3 confirmed at the time. It was just, we ended, it left on a cliffhanger, and then that was it. So the fact that we've gone on for multiple more seasons since then, and the story, in my opinion, only gets better from that point onward, it's great, it's amazing, and I'm in love with it. And now here we are, on the Colts in Season 6, and, as per my current traditions, I'm going back to review an older season of the show to just kind of, how much has come. And ironically, when I did that before Season 5, when I reviewed Season 1, which was even longer ago since Season 5 was in the fall of 2022, and we're in the beginning of 2024, and that was because of the strikes and everything. So, backstory aside, we're getting into it. Rookie Season 2, which, in the beginning, again, if you already are a Rookie fan, or for some reason it just randomly popped up on your screen at some point when you're scrolling on Hulu or even ABC, that the Rookie Season 2, for me personally, is a significant improvement on an already great Season 1. For me personally, I talked about this during the Season 1 review, and I'll echo some of my sentiments, was that me going into this show, in general, I literally had no expectations. It was just literally Nathan Fillion's face. The trailers kind of sold me on the premise. It was interesting. It's got everything that I want in a TV show. And I just got into it. And then by the end of Season 1, again, similar notion, we were not renewed for Season 2 at the time when Season 1 ended. So we were left on a cliffhanger. And then I was so enthralled to, I need to see what happens next in the story. I need to get to that. And when we finally did come back to it, when we got the renewal, and then boom, the next September came over, and we're back to it, a whole new year. It was personally great, and especially this was the beginning of a lot of things in the world of television for me was starting to kind of collide a little bit, actors and actresses that I've seen in other media formats, whether it was movies or TV shows, throughout my entire history of binging shows and watching them, were slowly coming into this show, and I'm like, oh shit. Apologies for my language, but this is getting interesting. This is really getting interesting for me. And personally, for me, it's the story, it's the character. Where people call this a procedural, which it is a procedural at times. It is still going through the day-to-day notion, but this is different. This wasn't your traditional every year's in the actual year. It's September to May, nothing happens during the summer. Well, we're not doing any of that, to be honest with you. We're going through its own pacing, its own storyline. It's going at its own at its own set routine, and that's what makes it stand out for me, as well as the characters, which we'll get into in a moment. But just wholeheartedly, the story that we go for Season 2, dealing with the second half, our main rookies. FTO program training, or in the second half, that means things are getting more serious, things are getting more more intense, as well as the characters having had already half a year to know each other. All the beginning hurdles, all the beginning startup for these relationships are already past. We're already well past, and now we're in the meat of their actual the relationship. Obviously we're getting new elements thrown into things, new characters coming into it, kind of really putting things up for a loop. And, honestly, this season has done so well with change. Again, the characters you see at the beginning of Season 2 are not the same characters at the end of it. They all change in their own way. They all grew in their own perspective. And for me personally, that makes it much more enriching of a story to go to, where not only are the characters strong enough on their own, the relationships between each other are also strong. And just in terms of balancing out the comedy, the humor, as well as the dramatic side, I can't think of a show that's airing nowadays on a regular broadcast network schedule that can do that, personally speaking. Obviously, you have like the premium streaming service. That's completely separate. They have all the time in the world to make. This is like, you got a time period. You got like a time limit. Like, you got to make these episodes in this certain time period. And the fact that the writers and the cast are able to put their A game in almost every single damn episode was amazing, to say the least. This season kind of set the bar to what a rookie season is, what the format is, and then when we go further into like 3, 4, 5, and hopefully 6, it's only gonna, build on that format from there. Like, season 1 was setting up the playing field. This was now about building down that foundation upwards, getting to things where they need to be. So, for me personally, before I get into like the actual spoiler part of it, I heartily recommend season 2. If you only just begun season 1, you're kind of curious, like, is this one of those shows like it falls off after season 1? It's not. It's just more better than before. Immensely better. That's the right grammar word I'm going to use there. It's immensely better. Everyone's firing on all cylinders. Every episode matters. Every episode's hilarious or on point. And this season produces some of the best episodes, even still. To like, it's some episodes, some of the top 10 episodes of The Rookie come from this season, and I am not joking about that. So with that being said, let's go to the actual spoiler-filled territory. Again, this is your last, warning to turn away before we get into it. You can watch the entirety of The Rookie season 2, available right now on Hulu. So go check that out there. But yeah, no, here we go. So for season 2, in general, the story, like I said before, this takes place in the second half, mostly the second half of the FTO program for John, for Chen, for West. This is in their second half of their training program. And, some things have obviously changed from season 1 to season 2. Some characters are no longer present from season 1 for reasons that are obvious and then unobvious. And then you have, all new characters coming in that are, are they an ally to Nolan and the crew, or are they, enemies to Nolan and the others? We don't relatively know at the beginning. And it's always frozen for a loop, kind of. Like, you never really know what a character's true motivations are going to be until, like, they're actually revealed. Like, I'm just completely surprised on, like, how things are going. Like, this isn't your traditional, like, and maybe because for me, I haven't watched that many procedural. I know there's tons of stuff out. I know Chicago, Law and Order, NCSI. I know all of them. I haven't watched any of them because I have no interest in them. But for me personally, like, just getting into this, like every relationship, every banter, every new character that we see, whether it's going to be recurring or a guest star or a main cast member, like, it's always like you don't really know what you're in store until it's point blank. And I think that's what interests me in general about The Rookie, where, like, you can introduce a bunch of new characters and they could still be completely different characters by the time you get to the end of their run. Like, it's always like, always keeping you on your tippy toes. And that's what I immensely appreciate, from the get-go. Like, I don't want this to be, because a procedure kind of means in a way predictable. That's kind of why I always stay away from procedure, because it's kind of like the same thing each and every week. The fact is that, you're getting to these, like, real, like, gripping storylines that are, like, actually pushing the characters forward. And it's always on the toes of, like, what the heck's going to happen next? Like, really, it's just like, what the hell? What really does happen next? And, I feel like this season's kind of divided up perfectly into 2 separate storylines. You got the first half leading up to episode 11, then you have the post endgame, but they all feel like one, like, season, one uniform season. Like, everything, like, you see it, the second half is already set up in the first half, and then stuff from the first half is only self-contained in the first half, but then it's always flowing into, like, the next thing. It's just like you can divide each up to, like, season episode 1 through 11, and then episode 12 to 20 of the season. Like, they all feel like they're all the same, but they feel a tad different. Like, you're going a tad bit differently here, so to speak. But going into the characters more heartily, I have to address this again, similar to when I did seasons, everything, like my coverage of season 2, was that the one major departure was Talia. She's no longer part of the show. Her actress left in the middle of the break between 1 and 2. The reason being that, again, this was accusations. These were never, confirmed by anyone. Like, okay, what I mean by confirmed by anyone, and like, let me make this clear before I go a little bit, too far deeper into just the unspecifics, is that she accused people in I believe it's the hair and makeup department of, sexually, what's the word? I forgot. It's basically like they did. I forgot the word. Like, every time I'm about to say something, I forgot exactly what the word is supposed to be. I don't know why my brain sometimes, just shuts up at the weirdest moments. sexually harassing her. And then there was like a more crossing the line moment, supposedly towards the end of season 1, and she made the reports to the higher ups, at the showrunners. No one ever took her seriously. Supposedly, again, all this is supposedly. They did an internal investigation. Nothing was ever found, and no one really delved deeper into it. To be honest with you, and again, it's not. I'm not trying to dismiss her claims. I really am not. It's just one of those, he said, she said kind of ordeal. And I'm in the motion of like, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So, and again, I'm not trying to mean that I don't believe her at all. I'm not trying to do, I heard at the time what she said. I'm not oblivious. But at the same time, like, until you get like some sort of like investigation confirmation, or like we're seeing proof of this, like, it's kind of really hard to cite things. And, I've seen, since that incident, like, we've seen plenty of incidents in between now and then about other related incidents happening. And, sometimes people jump the gun without no evidence. And then by the time the evidence comes out, they're like, oh shit, we make a mistake. Like, for me personally, I'm not picking sides. I'm really am not. I'm still obviously going to support the Rookie because like, this is my favorite show. But obviously things would be different if something came out, like an actual piece of evidence, but it never did. So, because of all that, she's not on the show anymore. But however, what was on clever writing was that they wrote up her having an issue with her, I think it was her brother by adoption. Not like she didn't adopt someone, but like she was adopted. And then I think that was what I remember from season 1. And she had a brother who was a criminal, but she never reported him on when she was applying to be in the academy. So at the end of season 1, that was going to create a conflict of issues of like, her like being like, is her loyalties really 100% true and base if like she has like someone on the opposite side of the law outside of them. So that was going to create an issue. So they wrote her out because of it, because her character found an opportunity for her to continue to be in law enforcement, just in a different division, so that she could still keep her job within the system, just without being with the patrol officers anymore. Again, it was unceremonious. There, I will admit we had to cut to like a weird cutaway where like, yeah, for some reason Talia is not there with Nolan and Cole when they're escorting Bradford to the hospital, and then we jump 3 weeks ahead so that we have enough time to like explain, yeah, Talia's not here anymore. She was with them, but then she had to leave, and then now she's just gone. No Barry ever mentioned, no calls, nothing. And honestly, for me, and I criticize all TV shows about this, and again, it's usually one reason or another. We obviously know the reason why on her end, why they never call her, why they never mention her again. That, it happens. It's just kind of weird, like, you drop a character like that and you just rarely mention it. I understand, like, life continues onwards. You can't just always think of the past every single episode. I do understand that. But the fact that they just dropped her after this episode, never updated her, not even a single, like, it would have been nice if, like, we just got, like, a later season, more, like, not this season, but, like, when, in the future where, like, Nolan gets a text message from her and say that, hey, congrats on this, and that. At least a little like, hey, I'm still in your life, just like not 100% there. I totally understand where they were going at with this, and they had to do what they had to do. But because of of Talia's absence, obviously no one needed a TO for the second half of his training, so they wrote in a brand new character, our newest main character being Nyla Harper, who joins in, not in the beginning. They give some time to have Nolan acclimate to like his new not environment per se, but like the new ground stage where like he's kind of like in a different, again, being 6 months in, already adjusted, like more change, like he has a girlfriend now. His son is back in his life. Not okay. When I mean back in his life, he's like now privy to his life, more often than not this season. And then you have a returning character of his, which I'll get to more in the Nolan section of this. But Harper coming in, again, this is what I mentioned before about, when characters are introduced to the show, you have no idea where their final loyalties will end up. Or where Harper comes in, she is immediately off the chain. She just came back from a very long stint in undercover work, and she's basically used to being on her own, being her own boss, just following orders to an extent. Like, here's the directive, do whatever you need to do to get to that directive, and she does that, and then she kind of just has free range to get there however she pleases. And then so when she jumps back into to patrol back with Mid Wilshire, it's kind of weird because like a lot of characters question her because like, you have a golden ticket, which according to, in their logic, maybe it's true in the real world, I'm not 100% certain, that basically means you have free reign to basically go wherever the heck you want. You can go anywhere in the entire police network. You can be undercover forever. You could be in DEA. You can go to anywhere you want to with a golden ticket. Basically, you have a free path. And she chose to go to patrol, which a lot of people say that is a demotion. Like, you are basically, under watch. You are just handling like the innocent calls. You're really probably not going to see much of like the big work ever again. But she has her reasons, and people were questioning her, like, why would you do that? And of course, Nolan, being our favorite lovable rookie, eventually discovers the fact that, Nyla is doing this because she had an epiphany moment where all these years of undercover work, guess what she lost? Her family. She had a husband. She has a daughter. And then her husband had enough of her. Was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm divorcing you. And I understand, when you get married to someone, it's for better or for worse. I understand this was one of their worst moments. But the fact is that this was a very extreme circumstance where, she was not able to fully be herself. The woman he married is not there always. So how does he feel comfortable with the fact that, sometimes she has to come home, very rarely. When she does, she's very much a shadow of herself, where, she has to keep a distance from everyone to immediately, if something happens, she's gonna go right back into her character. And then, with her daughter, literally missing so much of your daughter's, life by that point. I don't think I forgot what age she is, but she's not that old, but she's already fully forming sentences. Mind you, she's not in the young age, but she's not that old. She lost a good amount of those years. Eventually she realizes, what am I doing? Yeah, sure, be where I am in my positions. I've done so much in my career so far, but at the end of the day, I lost so much time. I missed my daughter. I lost my husband, but I can't lose my daughter. I can't do that. So she does whatever she can to gain stability back, but it's a challenge. It really is a challenge for her to go from having any possible variable happen in your life, and then immediately having to adjust to that. Going back to the straight and narrow approach is hard. Because, that means you have walls. You have, this is the format. You go straight ahead. There's no more left, right, this, that, up, and down. There's no more of that. It's hard. No matter what the reason is, whether positive or negative, it's still a hard adjustment. It's not that easy to make that adjustment in your life. But again, it always goes back down to Nolan, where Nolan's optimistic, his ability to always help others, very courageous, very much, mindful of that, and, he's always supportive of Harper, and Harper honestly hated him from the beginning. He's just I hate you. I'm literally only doing this because I have no choice. And then eventually she's like, okay, he's not a bad guy. He's actually an ally. He can actually, he understands my position because, they're both fellow parents. So she does understand that from him. And eventually they gained their own bond by the second half of things where, in my opinion, they are even better than, when Nolan was with Talia. Again, two different situations, Talia and Harper, but the fact is that Nolan and Harper are both parents, so they're going to have that common ground of yeah, we are both parents. We understand the sacrifices we need to make for our children to give them the best life possible, as well as to be in their life always. They both understand it to a T, and that was make them work so well. Eventually, yeah, Nolan is just always the adjustable guy. We're yeah, he's used to everyone. He knows everyone's going to be different than him. Him being the youngest still police officer, the youngest rookie, that he has to kind of go with the flow with things, but he also he's a people person. He understands that. And that kind of, as much as Harper doesn't really vibe with that, he's kind of what she needed to kind of get back on the straight and narrow. And then by the time we hit the second half of the season, where now she's kind of gotten everything under control, she's kind of got the straight and narrow path kind of figured out. Now it's just about, forging a new identity in a way. We're yeah, she's still going to be Harper. No matter what, her core self is still who she is. But now she's able to redevelop her relationship, with her ex-husband, at least doing the co-parenting thing. Then trying to, take care of her daughter, trying to be more prevalent in her life, being a mother first, your job is obviously important, but your responsibility as a parent is always equally as important too. And then or also her doing her own thing, doing things that are new. And when we first saw her, she was very cold and separate. She did not want to be associated with Nolan. She did not want to be even near Lopez and Bradford. She just wanted to stay the hell away from them. And, eventually she started warming up to Nolan, and obviously then slowly the others. And then eventually she's like, yeah, I'll stay with y'all. You seem cool enough. And eventually she gains her own, rapport. Because, again, when we started season 1, it was, Bradford, Chen, Bradford, Lopez, and Talia Bishop, that was the last name. All three of them were like kind of this close knit TO circle. We're like, yeah, we are the TOs of this station. We are a unit. We're obviously going to be different people in how we teach our boots, but like at the same time, we are who we are. So Harper eventually kind of sliding into that slowly, especially when she slowly gains her own footing with Lopez. Again, we see more of that in the future. This was like just the beginning of things with what her relationship with the others. Uh, Eventually, she fits in right well with the two of them, like not serving as a replacement for Bishop, but as like forming a new kind of like correspond a new puzzle piece to them that equally fits as well. So her joining the cast is like already already such a stand. It's very hard to introduce new characters off the gate, and eventually she kind of just slides into her own being like an OG, being like her own character. Before I go even deeper with like our established members, I do want to give a shout out to Wesley. Wesley, this is his last season being recurring. Next season he gets promoted to main cast, but he has his own storyline too. Going from it. He and Lopez moved in with each other at some point previously to season 2. I forgot if it was like during the end of season 1 or during the 3-week gap. I'm not 100% certain about that, but he has his own storyline, eventually him letting Lopez into more about his, own world, considering the fact they moved in with each other. It's like, two worlds coming into this new one world together. And, we found out some things about Wesley that, like, that anyone would be a little bit, changeable in their mindset for, because, he comes from a rich family. Sometimes that changes the game, sometimes it doesn't. Lopez being the rare case where, like, yeah, she's just like, wow, this is like, wow. And Wesley being like that, the one rare rich kid that's like, I don't want to be rich. I never wanted to be rich. I just happen to be rich. It's just like it's a curse on me. And which I'm like, that's great. That's hilarious. But then eventually, all jokes aside, with in that front, eventually you get to see more about him and his own personal struggles. As there's an episode in season 2 where he gets stabbed. He gets stabbed by an inmate during that episode. He is near death, but then he eventually bounces back from it, but he has PTSD in his own regard where he can't mentally handle the idea of a gruesome scene. When you go to a crime scene and it's a very gruesome crime scene, he can't handle that at the beginning when he comes out of it. He has to take a step back and breathe and make sure, collect his thoughts of what the hell's going on and everything. He has a brief battle with addiction. And again, him being recurring, those storylines don't really 100% stick. He's most times, the lawyer on retainer for Mid-Wilshire. If something happens, he immediately gets called over. And that's the basic extent for him. But again, him being promoted to next season for, Maine, I just have to mention that there. But Wesley is such a perfect foil to Lopez. Sometimes people say opposites attract, and in this case, it does attract. It's just their energies, they shouldn't work well with each other, but at the same time, they do work well with each other. So it works out for the best for both of them. That it all works out in that regard right there. So again, you're gonna see more of him in the future, but for him now this was his last season as recurring, definitely they were setting up the board for him to get his own storylines, get his own taste in the pool. So I found it to be very appreciative for the writers to be doing that. Then going into the rest of our characters. I will say, again, with this being an ensemble cast, there are going to be moments where, in a season where, characters don't quite get the development they need, to be honest with you. Sometimes they're a little bit more, withholding or, a little bit, there's only so much room. Despite there being, so many episodes, sometimes the pacing of things, it kind of can get a little bit more confusing for me. For me personally, for Gray, I think he got a little bit shafted this season, a little bit speaking, not quite too much. For me personally, for Gray, him being kind of the watch commander, being the man who oversees all, everyone doing the bullpen scenes and everything. It always works out so well for him to always have his moments. But again, I always missed the him having his own episodes where he's really in charge, step by step, full from through. And it's one of those comedic reliefs. He's not comedic relief whatsoever, but he is kind of the comedic relief in a way where he's making the cracks. He's basically torturing everyone that, especially Nolan still. Him and Nolan do definitely get on a better foot track this season. They had a lot of missteps in season 1. But this season they managed to grow more together, again, being, I guess, like I said, with Harper and Nolan, him and Gray being both parents, being both officers, being of an older age, let's say that, there is common footing there. There's common footing there. Obviously, Gray gets more apparent to, like, Nolan's true, like, actions. Like, okay, this is what Nolan's really capable of. I could start to trust him more. And, that honestly is, said more often than not as you get to see more of them. But my only critique really is that we don't really get much of those Gray moments, like, throughout an entire episode. It's more like, there's scenes in his office and there's scenes in the bullpen, like he'll be on the scene sometime. But they didn't really give him his own episode, mind you. They didn't really give him his own, like, full moment to, like, stand out. I know that it's coming up in the future. I know that part. But, like, here, they focus their attention on just the rookies and their TOs, and that was it, because those are the ones on scene most often than not. I do understand that. But at the same time, when he is there, he's an incredible foil. He manages to motivate you. There's a reason why he is the leader of this station. And, as, despite my mild criticism, like, him not getting his, like, a true full moment to shine, when he is, there present at a scene, he's still very much like, yeah, I'm the one that, like, the one that's, like, really, like, the captain of the ship. And it shows through always whenever we see him on screen. Going to our first, like, like, the pairs of the TO boot relationships. Continuing the whole, like, I don't feel like they got enough development, but they still got development in that category. For me, it was the West and Lopez, where, in terms of, like, their overall connection this season, they definitely did grow more. Like, of all the three sets, Nolan and Harper had a very rough beginning off the gate. Chen and Bradford had more warming up, but there was still, like, a lot of Bradford's, old style, I'll call it, wink wink, still in there most often than not. That we see something different in the second half. Okay, I'll get more to that in a bit. But when it comes to Lopez and West, they definitely have the most friendliest, relationship. Like, all those, like, criticisms, all those, like, missteps in the first season are all gone. They're, like, actually, like, in a way, like close, like, cheek friends, I'll call it like that. Like, they wouldn't be, I don't think they would be friends, like, outside of the workplace, but they are friends, outside of, like, uniform. They obviously have their, relationship set in stone. Like, I am your TO, you are my boot, and that is it. But when they're on call, they like, of all, like, the emotional, like, openness, despite Lopez being an aggressive person, like, she's still very open with Wes. Like, she always goes to him first for, like, any advice or stuff like that, which honestly speaks well to, like, their relationship and just how close they've gotten with each other about that. Wes would always give opinions about Lopez's relationship with Wesley, and then Lopez would help out Wes with anything he has to do with his own training process, because Lopez this season, is, once again, managing, like, trying to make Wes the officer, that he wants to be, but at the same time, she's also having to deal with, actually being a real partner to Wesley, where, like, she's never been in that type of relationship. And, like, whenever you find that one special person that's like, damn, this is someone I'm really, like, I'm breaking a lot of my rules for, because they are worth it. They are, they are actually, like, worth the change to do so. Like, there was an episode where I think it was early on where, like, they moved in with her and Wesley, and they have, like, two different formats. Like, Lopez is, like, a little bit more, like, dirty, but because she just is tired of just the order and, like, the straight and narrow that she's used to when she's at work. So she just wants that, like, that empty, like, go with the flow type of ordeal when she's at home. And then you have Wesley, who is very much, like, a clean freak, basically. And, she actually, like, gives up and decides to clean up because she loves him. Like, she's like, I don't want to lose this. Like, obviously, they're compromising in a relationship, but, like, she's, like, actually, like, she would never change for another man. She would never change for someone else. But, like, Wesley is different because she knows this is something that is worth the change. This is worth the time investment, like, the investment to, like, put more effort into it, because he is worth it. And then you get into later on, we're like, yeah, we're reminded, she's been gunning for detective for so long. Like, it was her and Bishop fighting for the detective spot. Now Bishop's gone. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I forget, I wanted to be a detective. And she has more opportunities this second half, especially, to kind of, like, get that opportunity to be a to be a detective. That's all she's ever wanted to, especially when you get towards the end, where like, Greg gives her authority to like be acting detective for the entire length of this case, and like she's superbly happy. She's like, finally, my hard work has like paid off, and like, I actually get a chance to prove myself. Like, she is a hard worker. She definitely does, earn every single ounce of respect and promotion she gets her way. And like when she actually does achieve it, it's a moment that's like, it's well earned, and it's definitely she earned that W. She got that win, mostly speaking. But she still has her moments like being a very funny ass, where like she's still like the serious yet direct person that she always is, which makes her her, and which makes those scenes just even more better by a result. As for West, he went on a like most of his story was kind of like in the first half in a way, like more like first to like mid half, and then after that kind of like branched off there. I knew mostly it's because him being the golden child, like him being like the son of like a major ranking officer in the LAPD, like growing up to like eventually this is the goal, this is to be a police officer, and then in the first few episodes he gets told, oh, by the way, you got the lowest score on the halfway exams. You got an 81 compared to Nolan and Chen, who are like they're their own breed, but like they were not expected to get that rank. And West kind of goes through a loop there, like he makes a couple mistakes and Gray thinks, yeah, I don't think you're ready for the second half of the program. I think you need to stay in that first half a little while longer, get your bearings again, and then maybe we'll reconvene in a couple months, see how you do. And it's like that. I can never relate to like having that pit stop of like you made a mistake, you gotta pay for it, and then this is like the inseparable waiting period where like you want to get back on track, you want to get to that point where like things can like naturally resume, but it takes a while, and that waiting period is just so freaking difficult. It really is, because it's always so long. You're seeing everyone else get ahead of you. It just freaking sucks. It really does. Like it's just like the most insurmountable feeling in the world. I went through that in college, so like and then eventually once I get back on the right path, then I'm like, yes, finally, we're getting somewhere again. We're getting to that point again. That was where West was at. Mind you, throughout that whole thing, where like he did everything by the book. He tried to do every little thing to get back on track, and then he eventually did. And then you get back into it, and like he's kind of like going for his old thing again. Then he finally found his own relationship this season with an actor, ironically, on a police procedure, which is ironic, just like the double irony over there of like just how things are working right now. So be that as it may be, just seeing that wholeheartedly, giving him a little taste of happiness was like, so good. Eventually he gets to minor scuffles with like, Chen, because he moves in with her. And then we discover the Shangri-La, like the freaking, the cops, residential habitat outside of Mid-Wilshire boundaries. And that was just so hilarious. I love Smithy so much. But Wes had a very strong first half and mid half. It was like towards the end where like, it was kind of a little bit dire then till the finale, where like he actually lost a fellow compatriot who was in it with him in the academy, and that kind of gave him the motivation to like really finish off the season strong, like trying to like again keep his emotions in check, kind of not trying to let that take over the mantle of like what he has to do for his job. So all those little lessons were like very worthy to like get him where he needs to go for next season. Wink, wink. Sometimes I like the teasing a little bit. Like, I when I know. Like, that's one of the lovely things about being ahead of the game, where like, I know what's coming next. I know like, oh, everything they do this season, it makes him perfectly ready for like what's coming next. I love it so much. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, oh man, you're in for a ride. I'll just say that much. Going to our next pair, Chen and Bradford, which not gonna get into it. I'm just saying this much to you people. We're not there yet. We're just not there yet. Don't worry about it. But this season, honestly, again, coming from like a perspective, like I finished season 5, I already know what the hell happens, in their overall relationship. We're not there yet per se, but there isn't like, overall aspects of like us getting there. Like there's always been hints, there's always been breadcrumbs, but anyone can confuse it like it's just friends being friends, or just like someone like with greater admiration for someone like just trying to help someone out. It's all like playing by the nuances there, like the little things you get to notice there and there. Where like, again, season 1, Chen and Bradford never like, got along from the beginning to the get-go. Where like, Bradford had a very strict dictator style of training his boots. And then Chen was just like a novice, didn't know what the hell to do. This was like her another career change. It may have not gone anywhere. And, she was very detrimental. Like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to prove to everyone I am what I'm setting out to be. And then Bradford, again, like that was all season 1 thought. Season 2, like, Bradford just has to remind her, like, yeah, you're not done with your training. Like, this is not the easy half. This is like just the more harder half. And I want to make you remember that. But then there's just like some subtle like little changes. Like the knob gets turned a little bit. Where there's the episode where Bradford gets assigned a book for his sergeant's exam, and Chen has to forcefully be as kind of like his the audio person, where like she's reading out the book while they're in the middle of calls, and Bradford apparently has a little bit of a learning, not like a learning disability per se, but like has a little bit of a difference in learning, where he's more of a verbal learner, where like if things are told to him, not physically on a board or anything, or physically on paper, like if someone's verbally telling him something, he will understand that way better than the other ways. And Chen understands that, but she doesn't see that as a weakness to him. That's just like, everyone's different. Everyone's got their own strengths. Everyone's got their own weaknesses. It does not mean you're weak. And she actually recorded an entire damn audiobook for him. Like, no one ever does that unless you truly care about something. Again, that doesn't have to mean love. It does not have to mean love. And I can completely understand where people would come from. Where like, that's the beginning. That's the spark. Like, no, it could be that, but it's also not that. It's not. They're not quite there yet. Like, it's a soul, like, it's, I think in most things where like, there's not a sudden change. It's just one of those like things like, you don't see it, the full picture yet. You just see the most picture of it, but like the full frame of it, you don't understand it just quite yet. So that was one of those moments. And then you have the episode in the halfway mark, where when Chen gets taken and everyone's it's an all hands on deck to get her back. That episode is still one of the best episodes in the entire show. It's in the top 5. It's just the most well done, the most well paced, well edited, well everything. The fact that an episode didn't even get an Emmy nomination, it just baffles me. It just does. That's just my personal opinion on it. But like, that episode really sold everything from front to end. Just, Chen using everything that Bradford taught her up to that point to survive, to give herself a fighting chance for everyone to find her. And Bradford being torn because he was partly responsible for putting Chen in that situation. That was a turning point, in their overall relationship. It was not a total, like, 100%, yeah, it was like a total, like, shit. It was a change in their parameters of their overall relationship, where Bradford does care about Chen. That is something that is undeniable as a fact. He felt responsible for that moment. He felt immediately guilt-ridden by that, and he, after that moment, he just is more like open to being something more for Chen, despite the T.O. boot relationship. He does care. He really does. And you see that throughout the second half, where like, he is giving more advice. He is being a little bit more as a friend to her. It's the Bradford show cracking a little bit more. So like, it was like a very fractured crack in season 1, and then it's starting to like break open a little bit in that second half. Especially when he helped her out, with the recovery, him like actually like giving her advice about like a guy she started dating at the end of season 2. And all that, and again, like, that entire thing helped both of their characters, where like, even toward the end, I could tell Bradford trusts Chen more. And again, in a world where like Bradford just got a very nasty divorce, his wife basically left him. He's always had this like very, tough wall that no one can crack. I'm not saying Chen cracked that wall, but she definitely made some little fractions in there, like, you'll really make a difference in his life, to make it a little bit more open for him to, like, you could open up more. Like, you can trust people. People will be there for you. There's always a real support system for you. Because up until that point, he always had Lopez. Like, him and Lopez have always been tight. They've always been in the same rank. They've always understood each other. That's realistically his only real friend. Same with Gray, but that's more like a totem of respect. This season, he starts to open more up to, like, there are more people out there that I can trust, that I can put my faith into. And, especially also he gets into his own relationship. This is his first relationship post divorcing Isabel, with Chen's friend, ironically, it also assists him in like opening up, actually being like kind of like a friendly guy. He's still the same Bradford we know and love. That's never gonna change. But him like actually like cracking a little bit, like, yeah, I can let my guard down, be a little bit different. Him and Isabel were like this type of couple, and now he has to learn to kind of be a different type of couple. Sometimes it's not gonna work out because it's two completely different things. But that entire relationship also helped Bradford, kind of be open to other possibilities, let's say, to be open to other avenues per se, whether it's going to be that direct path or something else. Because the episode where he met his girlfriend's dad, who was a former cop, he was honestly brutally honest to him. He was like, yeah, you are a great person, you are a good man, I expect you're going to be a good husband. In this particular aspect with her, you are not, because she has a specific condition that she could get in the future, and she needs someone, her partner, to take care of her. She needs that one person she can always count on to make sure she is fine. And you are not it. You will always answer the line of duty. You need someone like that in your life, or at least understand where you're coming from that. That's not her. It teaches you a lesson where, like, you could love someone. You really could. But at the same time, like, if you're not able to make that crucial, jump over, it's best to drop it, but not in a bad way, but just like, it's going to hurt in the long run, and you might let them down, or something worse can happen if you don't. And that's honestly the cold, brutal fact about the case. It really is. As for Chen, for me personally, I think Chen has received, a fair amount of, changeover. Where, like, her, again, similar to, like, being in the second half of her training period with Bradford, like, it's another one of those, it's not easy. It goes through the ways, emotions, as well as, she's kind of like, like, okay, she's got the stability with being a cop now. She's going to have that under control. She's kind of ready to, like, find someone, Also, I love to see where, like, West kind of tells her, like, yeah, I knew about you and Nolan. It was really not that hard. And then, like, damn, they were really not hiding that whatsoever. It's just everyone's just kind of cool with it. Or at least, like, yeah, I ain't no stitch. Nothing's going to happen. And then her trying to, like, kind of get back out there, trying to find someone, and then the whole kidnapping thing happened, which, again, shout out to Melissa O'Neill for, like, the performance. And same with Eric Winter for, like, those scenes in that episode, in episode 11 of the season, were just such masterclass. They were just, like, the performance were, like, on a whole nother level. I really were, like, I was, like, on the edge of my seat. Like, I didn't really know what the hell was going to happen. And that entire episode kind of kickstarted her second half of the season, where she has her own PTSD, where, like, the survival aspect's not what she's, scared of anymore. It's not whatever she was scared of. It was just like, can she ever trust the person again? Another guy, someone new to come into her life. It's not that easy. Because, you never know. You really never know. Like, and that's the scary thing about the world today. Like, you never really know a person until the moment they change. Like, you really cannot. Like, you could know someone for, like, a whole season, and they could still change. That is honestly just the wholehearted nature of the entire thing. And that was just interesting for her to, like, to see her go for that in that second half, to, like, kind of trust in her instincts again, to kind of, like, approach her way of, like, meeting new people. And then she eventually hooks up with someone towards the end of the season. I won't say how that goes per se, but I will say, like, that's another thing about coming back to these shows after the fact, where I remember even more people were like, the guy that she hooks up with towards the end of the season, that's a guy that from Walker that's another show I'm reviewing. So I'm like, the irony of, like, hey, these worlds are kind of small after all. It's just funny how things kind of work sometimes. But Chen definitely goes through the most this season, I think, physically and mentally, and that kind of makes her a better cop and makes her a better person. By the end of it, that kind of is inching her closer to, like, officially being a P2, to officially be a cop properly. It makes her on a whole new level where, like, people kind of give her a little bit more respect and credibility for, like, handling through that, so to speak. And then lastly, you have Nolan. Oh, Nolan, our favorite rookie. He's always the likable one, the one you hate because he's too damn likable. With whatever reason, mind you, he goes through a lot as well, just not in the extent of, like, that you would expect from the others, where, like, his is more like, just, learning more, even more lessons. He may be a dad and everything, like, so, dads should know everything they have to know to teach their child, but, like, he's still learning new things, mind. He's still learning what's right and wrong, what's, like, the correct thing to do. mind you, and like, him being kind of like a Boy Scout still was, still just like the best part of, everything going on, speaking out of here. But then getting into like, like in the beginning, like, he has to go for that moral compass of like, I haven't really gone for like the aspects of the job long enough to kind of like, brush off certain things, because, he's dating the woman from the DEA, I believe, or something like that, from Homeland Security. I forgot which one it was. I already forgot. But he's dating someone, and she's like so on the job already that it's like, for all the things that happen to Nolan, which are like fresh and new, and like, he needs a moment to like kind of like sit down and like, kind of collect his thoughts. And then for her, it's like 1, 2, 3, you're done. You're already off on the next case. Like, it's not that easy. It really isn't. You need like the time to adjust, mind you. But, she's understandable about all that. Like, that Nolan's not in her, level yet about that, but she's willing to be patient. The reason why they broke up is because, Nolan, can't justify a promise another child right now in his life. As much as he would love to be a father again, again, like he would be freaking in his mid-60s by the time that kid is like, off to college, hypothetically speaking, he can't do that right now. He's still figuring out this aspect of his new life. Technically, he's still figuring out his new self, that him birthing a child into this world is a little premature, and, she doesn't want to, because like, she's on a biological clock and she can't wait that long to have kids of her own. So like, she got to leave. And retrospectively speaking, it's like, I don't think that relationship was going to work out, period, mind you. It just didn't seem like the right fit for Nolan. And at the same time, like, they introduced her, like, they reintroduced another character from his past life, which was his ex-girlfriend from college. So to have to run into each other. And again, it's very respectful. It's very, mutual statement of, like, in the beginning, where, like, they're just trying to be friends. They're just trying to, like, cohabitate, because, like, she works in the hospital. He works in law enforcement. Like, sometimes there's going to be some crossover, mind you. She's also going for, like, a separation period with her ex-husband, and so they're kind of on the same toes. Like, when Nolan eventually, breaks up with her, like, sometime later, he eventually realized, oh, yeah, she's also there, too. So, it's also, like, just irony, mind you, and it also happens to work out. Again, it's a weird working out thing where, like, opposites attract, where, like, it's just like a natural chemistry between, like, just the natural trust between them. Just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, especially towards the end, where she decides to choose her whole family against Nolan, because she cares about her son. Like I said before, like, she is a parent. She needs to figure out what is the best move for her son, even if that costs her her own happiness, mind you, in the moment. And no one understands, but at the same time, he kind of feels hurt that, like, that's just kind of like the way things kind of have to go, mind you, in this aspect of things. And at the same time, like, Nolan getting reintroduced to old characters, he meets new characters, like, in his life. Like, he apparently has a half brother played by Pete Davidson, and I'm just letting you know, like, I kind of like Pete Davidson this time around, because, like, when I first watched the episode back in 2020, I had 2020, like, I had no idea who the heck Pete Davidson was. I eventually knew he was the guy who dated Ariana Grande for a little bit, and then they got engaged for a little bit, and then that didn't work out. That's the only time period I knew of him. Now I kind of got used to his, like, sense of humor, mind you. I kind of do like him as a character, so it's funny to say the least in that aspect of things. And then you have on the other side of things, Armstrong, played by Harold. I forgot his last name. I apologize, but he was from Lost. I binged that show a few years ago. And him coming here, kind of being like similar to Nolan, where, like, they're both middle-aged, they both were married, they have, like, commonality between them. It's such a tragedy story between them, because, like, they were such good friends on paper, and, like, had certain things not happen, I still felt like they could have been good friends. It was kind of like that bro you never really expected to have, and, that no one kind of need, like, a bro on his level, on his age group. And, he had that in him, and it, like, kind of worked out. Like, it was, again, another natural fit relationship, mind you. And then also, Nolan's just always a treat to be around. When he met Alan Tudyk's character in the midpoint of the season, that was great as well. When he had that CI for a little bit, like, he had to learn boundaries for things. Every new character comes to his life that he has to learn something important from it. Except Seth Green. We don't talk about Seth Green on this show. And then we get to, like, and obviously the tragedy between him and Armstrong in the end of the season, where, like, Armstrong turned out to be a bad guy at the end, and, like, he had to turn on Nolan to, like, get himself away from him, and, like, just that cliffhanger. Oh man, that cliffhanger was so good. I just remember the tension from that moment onwards, and then us knowing that's the final episode of the season, and I'm just like, we didn't get into season 3 renewal. Like, what do I do? Like, I need to know what happened next. And thankfully, I know what happens next. So I'm like, I don't have to speculate on that anymore. Thankfully speaking, that's the beauty of like future watching. Where like I know everything. I know everything was about to happen. But I think the last thing in Nolan's character was like he gained like a rival, like an actual like like an antagonist, his own Joker with Rosalind. And I'm just like, Rosalind is such one of the best villains I've ever seen in any TV show. She is so sadistic. She has no soul, no remorse, no emotions, nothing whatsoever. And well, shout out to the actress who played her, R.I.P. She passed away during season 5. But her coming into this universe, playing this role, and she just manages to get it under everyone's skin. She's just a master actress. She just knows how to play the field, how to play the game. It's just like, all of her scenes is just well done, well performed. And it throws Nolan for a loop because like he has to he's never fought or met this type of person before, so he really had to figure out what the heck do I do in this situation. And it's something that I again, like, Rosalind, such a great character, and this is her episodes in the middle and then her brief appearance at the end was like all well done, all very much in service to the story and in service to John's character of just like how cruel and dark the other side of the law really is. But no, like, so again, personally speaking, all the characters are all A tier. Like, they're all giving it their best every episode. They're always giving like their best performance. It's not common for me to see every day. It really isn't. It's like very rare for me to watch a show and like see that through and throughout. But for me, again, personally speaking, I love season 2 wholeheartedly. I think it's way better than season 1. If I have to rank them, season 2 is immensely better than season 1 by a long mile. Not because season 1 was bad, but just because season 2 took everything that season 1 was doing and made it even better. All the new characters were natural additions to the rookie universe, and that everyone that was on this team on the season were just, they all had a role to play. They all had a part to play, and it just made for an even better season by the end of it. And it just made me like, I kind of wish we were kind of at next fall race. So I could just binge watch season 3 again, which I know I can always do that, but I want to keep my thoughts fresh for that. So gotta wait a while. Gotta wait a while about that point. But for now, I'm giving this season the highest of my compliments. 2 thumbs up. I wholly recommend it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of season 2 of The Rookie. How's your rookie rewatch going? Are you excited for season 6? Let me know in the comments below. As always, before anything else, so we'd love to have a conversation with you down below. But I believe it's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX reviewing the second season of The Rookie in a spoiler-filled capacity. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our rookie reviews. Next week, we are back, Rookie Season 6 episode reviews. We're reviewing them all, doing the usual shebang. So stay tuned. I can't wait to probably get back to see where our favorite rookies have been at. It's been a whole near year away. We're almost back to our family, guys. Just one more week to go. So again, stay tuned until then. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.